What instantly turns you off? I think littering does more than turn me off. I am fuming with just the thought and vision of people who are happy with themselves after they've littered. Zero responsibility, care and respect for Earth, the environment, and the people who would have to deal with that shit. SMH. Although I am in and the impacts of rubbish, plastics etc. is widely understood due to exposure and education. Would not say it's the same everywhere else around the world. If you've traveled to Southeast Asia, littering and seeing piles of rubbish on the roads is a norm. It's crazy the lengths to which some people will take their own victimhood, too. One time, my ex, her son and I were all sitting at the table after dinner. We were doing stuff on laptops while he was doing his homework. He was struggling with something and asked her a pretty basic question. She immediately flew off the handle and launched into a tirade about how he doesn't try to do anything before he bothers her etc. She literally picked up his binder of homework and threw it at him, and clipped him on the side of the head with it. Naturally he ran off crying and went to his room. She got up and stormed into our bedroom. Obviously I went and talked to our kid first in an attempt to A. make sure he was okay and B. calm him down, which was made more difficult by the fact that he hadn't done anything wrong and there was no reason whatsoever for her to scream at him in the first place, let alone throw a binder at him. Once that was done I went and tried to talk to her about, what the fuck is the matter with you? I couldn't even get something out of my mouth before she blew up at me and goes, "Oh, so I guess everyone in the house is just going to be fucking pissed at me all night." Me? You just threw a binder at your 6-year-old son's face and hit him in the head. You don't see that as a problem? Her. Oh, okay, I get it, you're the perfect person and I'm just the worst human being on earth. That's fine, you can just be mad at me all night and bitch about me forever. She literally just could not comprehend there would ever be any situation where she could be considered at fault, wrong, or be criticized, no matter how big or small, and she would explode at anyone who attempted to do so. I always think about whether she would have tried that same tactic with the social worker had I called CPS the way I wish I had. Up until recently I was in the final year of my degree and studying ridiculous hours, literally only getting up to pee and make tea. Not healthy, I know. After exams I realized I had to cut back on the amount of tea I was drinking, because it was equivalent in caffeine to over 7 cups of coffee a day. And now that I don't drink that much tea anymore, I've suddenly gotten thirsty. It's so weird. I never used to get thirsty or drink water, but now I'm thirsty every few hours. It's ridiculous. Has everyone else been living like this the whole time? It's so weird. Chloroform. Edit, though, is likely to be a myth. It takes at least 5 minutes of inhaling an item soaked in chloroform to render a person unconscious. Most criminal cases involving chloroform also involve another drug being co-administered, such as alcohol or diazepam, or the victim being found to have been complicit in its administration. This might be less funny but better than propagating a myth. A bad smell or body odor. I remember hooking up with a girl who I felt was totally out of my league. Things got heated, and I remember flipping her over to make fuck doggy style, and a strong stench wave of ass flooded over me. Like I know ass will smell a little bit, but this was like, for poops, poor wiping, and no shower for a couple days type of ass smell. Nothing killed my erection or sex drive quicker than that smell. I made up something dumb about being tired or having a headache, and left. Even to this day, I have a bit of an aversion to doggy because of how bad the smell was. Yeah, 25 years ago I met this perfect young lady, way out of my league. We continued to meet at the same place and time each week for months. Never discussed it as a date or planned it. One day, instead of 2 drinks we got loaded and went to her place. When her clothes came off all I could think was fucking gross. I told her that I didn't think we should do it the first time when we were wasted, so we just snuggled and went to sleep. When her alarm went off, she still smelled something awful but got dressed and touched up her makeup and went to work. I changed my routine to avoid seeing her. A few months later I was at a work luncheon. She walked into the bar and came right up to me and said hi. My coworkers were drooling and one guy asked her if we were dating. She said that she was crazy about me, but I blew her off. After she left, I just told them that there were maintenance issues. Instant clinginess. We went out, had a great date and some light fun at her place. She called me the next day while I was out with a friend. I didn't answer. She then called me over and over again until I finally answered. We're talking about 10-15 calls in a row, and when I answered I asked if anything was wrong, since she kept calling. She said no and said she just hates texting and prefers talking on the phone. I had to calmly explain to her I was out with a friend and if I don't answer, I will call you back, but calling me over and over makes me think it's an emergency. We tried one more date, but at that point it was awkward and I was no longer invested. Also had one girl text me over 130 times in one day after one date. It was worse because we worked at the same place, albeit different departments. It surprised me. In both cases I thought they were out of my league. Back when texting was still relatively new, and phones could only hold so many, I went out with a girl I was talking to online. She ignored me the entire time we were out. The second I left, she started blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails, nude pictures, etc. I turned my phone off to get some sleep. I woke up, turned it on, and the voicemails and texts were full. I started deleting and it was staying full. I had to delete my texts 3 times over. Then I realized she was still texting. She had stayed up all night texting and calling. Fun times. Insulting someone for taking pleasure in something. On first dates, I've heard the following examples. Why would anyone read a book they don't have to? Says the author. I can't stand this man at work because he eats Indian food every day. I inquired. He was, after all, an Indian. I broke up with my previous girlfriend because she liked comic books. I inquired. It had nothing to do with excess or obsession. Simply that she liked them was a problem at all. I can't see myself with somebody who likes orange. Says my all-time fave. Had a girl I dated and we were pretty into each other. One day she got extremely upset with me for saying something pretty innocuous because it reminded her of something from her past. I said I'd remember not to bring that up in the future and apologized, though that didn't seem to suffice. It appeared I was to be punished or treated poorly for it. I asked if I could get a pass on this as there was no way I could have known what I said would have bothered her but number. I asked her if there was anything else that really set her off like this and she said yes, though I'd have to find out on my own. I asked if there was anything I could do in the future to avoid upsetting her or causing one of these situations and again she angrily said number. I was getting a little perturbed by this point and asked if she was really blaming me for saying something harmless that I had absolutely no idea would set her off that way and she said yes. So I tried to reason with her one last time. So you're telling me that there is a minefield out there, that you know where all the mines are but refuse to tell me, and that if I step on one of these and it goes off it is my fault and I should be punished as a result. Indeed she did. We were supposed to go out for supper but I told her I wasn't hungry, got in my car and went home. If you're going to create the path and conditions of failure for our relationship, you can trust that I will find the shortcut every time. Told her friend in public that my mom was stupid and made fun of her for 20 minutes. She didn't know my mother's friend was sitting next to her in the restaurant and heard the whole thing. We were in college and in a different town, which made the whole experience for her that much more unfortunate. I was done, particularly because my mom was nothing but the kindest person to her and made every effort to make her feel welcome when she visited. My second date with this one girl was going to a Christmas party of a mutual friend. After we were there for a little while, she started talking to this other guy and they went to some corner where no one else could interrupt them and talked for an hour. When they were done talking, she immediately told me she was leaving and up and bounced. Totally turned me off, so I didn't talk to her again for a while. A month later she reached out and was like, "Why haven't you called me?" I was kind of dumbfounded that she would actually ask. I didn't have anything else going on at the time, so I figured we could try again. but the Christmas party left such a bad taste in my mouth I couldn't even feign interest. Choosing negativity. I am not talking about any mental illness, that's very serious stuff, but about people who intentionally see the worst in people and the world around them. People who get mad at every little thing. I had an ex whose train would be 15 minutes delayed and he'd be like, okay, wow, fucking train company, you ruined my evening. I'll be angry for the rest of the day now, even though he didn't have any obligations. Oh no, you can sit at home and do absolutely nothing 15 minutes later now, what a shame. I had a friend like this. 90% of what came out of her mouth was negative. At one point she tried to tell me that her life was just a level of awful that I couldn't understand. I laughed because this was at the end of a 2-year period where she had gotten married, had her first child, used her trust fund to buy a house, and started her career. Anytime I pointed out anything positive she'd respond with yeah but. They go on a tirade about some incredibly small negative or inconvenient thing. I don't mind a partner having friends. I have had to ask that he give some thought as to how a coworker was constantly being overly sexual with him. That person was disrespectful to others in general, and as soon as he said he didn't want to joke that way she started being a complete asshole to him. I didn't mind that she was a girl. I trusted him not to cheat, but I know when dudes keep trying to be flirty after I tell them they are taken, they don't respect me as a friend. My former employer did that. They go out of their way to post on social media about how woke they are. Look at us. Look at how inclusive we are for hiring differently able team members. I am autistic. When I worked for them, I was abused and bullied by my coworkers and supervisors almost every day, and the HR lady even wondered out loud how someone like me managed to get a college degree. Working for them made me so depressed I actually started thinking about suicide. I don't trust anyone or any group who makes being woke their entire personality, because I guarantee you their activism is 100% performative. People who just can't live without commenting negatively on other people's appearances, sexualities or just random things about them. Live and let live. Who gives a FCK if that guy standing at the bus stop has green hair? Does it affect you in any way? Mind your own business. You don't have to agree with everything other people do, but you should be able to accept it and not stick your nose in their business instead of making unnecessary and dumb comments. That last part reminds me of a guy I knew. He and I had been flirty for a while when we hung out. One night he got up the guts to go in for a kiss. Okay, cool. Until he immediately shoved his entire tongue in my mouth. I disengaged and started laughing. He asked what was funny, and unfortunately in my early 20s I didn't have a ton of social grace or tact. So I was honest. I told him he kissed like a golden retriever that smelled peanut butter in my mouth. It was an accurate description, but not kind. Being too clinging or attempting to push a connection right away. Also, when it comes to anything physically intimate, being overly aggressive when it obviously makes me uncomfortable. I'm not being prudish. I simply don't know enough about you, and don't be offended if I say no to hanging out at 3 a.m. after I get off work, especially if it was our first time getting together. That's fucking terrifying. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. I think it's literally the rudest thing ever. There is no excuse. They're just doing their job, probably hate it or had a really stressful day, and here you are being an asshole for absolutely no reason. I hate it even more so when said person or place is obviously super busy and you can tell they're tired and stressed and overworked, which for some reason is when the assholes tend to come out even more. It's so disgusting. Overweight people who have just given up and use body positivity as an excuse. I'm a formerly very heavy guy heavily skewing downward with exercise and diet. It's hard. It hurts, but to me it's totally worth it. But I'm also in my mid-30s and relatively recently out of a 10-year relationship. So obviously I went back to the well of old friends and crushes. A good amount of women I was into have fallen into the same well. They've had massive, sometimes morbid, shifts in weight gain, are single and act miserable/depressed/mean online, but they claim they accept themselves and are body positive. The same women who refused to date me when I was 30 pounds overweight in college, and some still refuse to date anyone more than 150 pounds despite being nearly 250-300 themselves. I don't really care about them being overweight, but it's the body positivity as an excuse to never change. Body positivity to me is for things you can't help or accepting being different. But it's a massive turn-off that some people I know pick fights on their social media with everyone about how they're morally superior to skinny bitches, etc. when they were those very same skinny bitches a few years ago and demand to be viewed as better than them. Desperation. It's a common internet meme for men to be desperate and scare women away. Let me tell you, it happens the other way as well. I met a girl online who was pretty, had a good job, kind, generous, and was overall a solid catch. The problem she had was that she was way too desperate to find a partner. I'm not even saying she was the kind of girl who had the relationship mapped out in stages, that is date 8 months, married in 16 months, kids by 24 months. Those girls exist, too, but this girl was just desperate for a partner. She was pursuing the idea of coming home to her partner, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, sitting on the couch and sweats eating popcorn. Basically, she was in love with the idea of being in love. All those things are great goals for a relationship that you can aspire to over time, not so much something to pursue or dream of on the first or second date. Throughout my entire life there are always a few people that are intelligent, which is fine. Some people are athletic, which is great. Some people are beautiful, which is very nice. When these people measure these attributes they excel at against everyone else and it gives them a sense of superiority. This is a turn-off. Often the people who are a little bit of each of these attributes are the ones who excel at one attribute but support others who aren't. That's a turn-on. People who will literally never admit they're in the wrong, no matter what. It's even worse when they're aware of this fact and are willing to tell you that to your face. And I don't mean something like digging in their heels because we disagree on something subjective. I mean people who catch themselves in a logical trap where they're forced to admit that either they were wrong about something or that they were just being an asshole, and so they just refuse to answer at all. Bad hygiene and messaging once a week saying hi sorry busy chat for 5 minutes and you fuck off again for another week. And flaky people. I get it if we set up a day and we both or one of us forgets or is late due to commute due to late off work or commute issue, but fucking don't say 4th June 7 p.m. X pub and you flusk. Fuck you, I spent X money on train, bus and taxi to get there, wanker. You have my fucking number dude, you could call or text me, fuckhead. God, dating is a pain in the ass. Girls who treat animals like less thans. A few years ago, had a girl who admitted to me she had a crush on me. We commenced holding conversations via text messages, and one day she stated she was thinking about getting rid of her dog she had had for some time. I'm not one to agree with the idea of getting rid of a dog. I couldn't do something like that. Nonetheless, it wasn't my dog, so my opinion was moot. When I asked why she felt the need to get rid of the dog, she stated it was because the dog was a PC and was scared of everything. Not a good reason to get rid of a dog, in my opinion, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I instantly ended that whole possible relationship before it ever really began. To give anyone who reads this an idea about how little I put up with treating animals as a lesser, a woman who works as the boss of another company, who works in the same building I work in, was holding a conversation with me about animals. She stated that before her and her husband got married and engaged or moved in with each other, her husband always let his dog sleep in the bed with him. After she moved into his house and they got engaged, she decided the bed was no place for a dog to sleep because she didn't want dog hair on the furniture. So the dog was banished from sleeping on said bed. I know my eyes got as big as a saucer plate when she said this, and it showed. She asked why my eyes got wide when she mentioned that story, and I said, if I was your husband at the time, I would have told you the dog stays in the bed. If you don't like it, there's a couch in the living room, or we can end this now and you can leave. In other words, The animal will always be more important than you, especially if they were here before you were. Just because you're human doesn't automatically make it to where I have to give more of a dang about you as opposed to my pupper. Period.